is coming to our office now. These are people who are in fear for their lives. So I'm going to give you some talking points that our immigration attorney gave me. Excuse me for reading this. ICE raids terrorize our cities and create misery and chaos in our neighborhoods. We believe deeply in the human dignity of every person, and that these actions violate all that we hold to be true and good. To cage children and to build walls dividing cities and families is deeply immoral. I was just in Berlin a couple of months ago and saw the remnants of the wall, and if we look at history, we know walls never ever are the solution. They only create more division and suffering for people living on all sides. The United States has long been a beacon of hope for individuals around the world seeking protection and refuge. This value is imprinted into the very DNA of the inception of our country. Our immigration policies must continue to protect those who need it.
Right on.
Asylum, and I will repeat some of what's been said, asylum is a protection granted to foreign nationals already in the United States or at the border who meet the international law definition of refugee, defined as was mentioned in the United Nations 1951 Convention and the 1967 Protocol, and then incorporated by the United States Congress into U.S. immigration law in the Refugee Act of 1980. The definition states that a refugee is a person who is unable or unwilling to return to his or her country and cannot obtain protection in that country due to persecution or a well-founded fear of being persecuted in the future on the account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. As a signatory to the 1967 Protocol, and through U.S. immigration law, the United States has a legal obligation to provide protection to those who qualify under this definition. It is very clear cut. The Refugee Act established two paths to obtain refugee status, either from abroad as a resettled refugee who leaves their country of origin to go to a neighboring country and usually go to a refugee camp, or in the United States as an asylum seeker. These are both legally defined ways to enter into the United States. Our legal system rests upon the principle that everyone is entitled to due process of law and a meaningful opportunity to be heard. But for far too long, the immigration system has failed to provide non-citizens with a system of justice that lives up to this standard. The majority of immigrants who are in deportation or removal proceedings today before the immigration court are not represented by an attorney. This is because attorneys for immigration court are not provided by government expense, but rather people must pay for their own attorney. You can imagine how expensive that is to pay for your own attorney. The law is very complex, and even with a very strong case, if it is not articulated perfectly, one will not have a successful outcome in order to avoid deportation. EMO is working with partners to provide universal representation to those in deportation proceedings before the Portland Immigration Court. Those immigrants who are represented by an attorney are 5.5 times more likely to have a successful outcome than those who are not represented. So it is crucial that we have legal representation for these immigrants. Over the last year, together with our partners through Equity Corps of Oregon, our attorneys have already helped more than 300 people facing deportation with their immigration court cases. We are grateful to the City of Portland, to Multnomah County, and now to the State of Oregon for providing funding for these vital legal services. We will continue to fight every day for the rights of our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, and our friends, and we will be relentless in working towards our vision of a beloved community where all are safe and free from fear. Thank you.
Thank you.